Chanukah, a very, very amazing holiday. And there are two aspects, basically. We have one, the amazing military victory that the Jews were able to achieve against the Greek Empire. And two, we have the miracle of the oil, that there was enough oil for one day, and then it ended up burning for 8 days. So we have these two miracles kind of coexisting and weaving one within the other. So I think if you would make an observation, a simple observation of the two miracles, it would seem that the military miracle was much greater. According to historical accounts, there was only 1,000 Jews left at that time that were faithful to Torah and mitzvahs. So it was 1,000 people fighting against the Greek Empire, which if you would try to figure that out today, 1,000 people taking on the US or something like that, it would be almost impossible. However, if you look at how our sages, how Chazal have us celebrating this holiday, the emphasis is certainly on the lights. This emphasis is on the oil, the miracle of the oil. All the halachas that we have refer to the miracle of the oil. In terms of the war, we say Al Anisim, we put that into our davening, we put that into Birchas Hamazon, but the emphasis clearly seems to be from our sages on the miracle of the oil. And it seems to be that our sages are stressing here that this was not a physical war. This was not a physical battle between two nations, the Jewish nation and the Greek nation, but rather a spiritual battle. This was a battle between light and darkness. The Greeks are referred to as darkness, which is a fascinating thing, because they looked at themselves as very enlightened. They had all the great philosophers, they had Aristotle, they had Plato and Socrates, and they discovered geometry, they had tremendous insights, and yet the Torah, the Medrash Rabbah, calls them darkness. And our sages, by stressing the oil, is calling us light. So what's the distinction here? Why are we referred to as light? Why are the Greeks referred to as darkness? There's a distinction between Torah on the one hand, and on the other hand, the Greeks were symbolizing chokhmah, wisdom. And there's a fundamental difference between Torah and wisdom, which is very interesting because Torah is wisdom. So what is the fundamental difference? The difference is that Torah really is supposed to penetrate your being. It's supposed to change you. It's supposed to transform you into a different person. And Chokhmah is, as great as it may be, stays on the outside. It doesn't change you. It doesn't make you into a different person. And the Jewish approach to wisdom in general is that if it's not improving you, if it's not building you, if it's not transforming you, it's not worth anything. It is actually darkness. And that's a fascinating insight, a very contemporary insight and a very fascinating insight as to what the very fundamental distinction was between the Jews on the one hand and the Greeks on the other hand. I'd just like to finish with an interesting story that can illustrate the difference between Torah on the one hand, the Jewish approach, and Chokhmah on the other hand. There was a great professor in America in the 20th century by the name of Bertrand Russell. Very, very astute professor, and he taught ethics. That was his field. And it seemed to be that Professor Russell had a problem that he was not the most ethical person in the world. He was carrying on with a few ladies on the side, even though he's a married man. And back in those days, the students were outraged that a person who is a professor of ethics is acting like this. And so the students actually put him on trial. And they said, Professor Russell, how could a teacher of ethics be carrying on like this? It doesn't make any sense. And Professor Russell, in his very intelligent way, responded as follows. He said, does a mathematics teacher have to be a triangle? That was his answer. I'm an ethics teacher. Maybe I'm not so ethical, but I know ethics. That is Chokhmah. Chokhmah stays on the outside. Torah has to penetrate the inside. So maybe this is a time of year we should be reflecting on the lights, reflecting on the message of the lights. We are the people of Torah, and Torah means that what we learn hopefully is integrated and helps us to become better people. And hopefully this will be a time, a lichtika time, when we have enlightenment, we're picked up, and that we can embody what we're learning. The Torah should become part of all of us.